Hi and welcome to this video about user stories. My name is Jayashri and in this video we are going to be learning about user stories. What user stories are, how can we as UX designers team up with our product managers and come up with good user stories, how do we compose good user stories, what are the acceptance criteria. Once we have those user stories, how are we going to prioritize them and how are we going to bring those user stories back into the design process and create effective experiences for our users. Watch till the end because I'm going to be sharing a template that you can use to create your user stories. And this template is coming from my experience of working with amazing PMs from ServiceNow and Atlassian. So watch till the end. Let's start with defining what a user story is. A user story is nothing but a simple description of the feature or the functionality that we want to add into a product. It's called user story because the user is at the center of it all. And it is one of the most basic and an amazing concept to make sure that the focus of whatever is being developed or whatever will be developed, the focus of it is on the user and how the product can benefit the user, do what they want to do using that product. Creating user stories is not just the task of a product manager or just the UX designer or the engineering manager, but it needs to be done as a team. Creation of user stories is a collaborative approach where all the three components of the triad, that is the product, the engineering and the design, come together, bring in their perspective, bring in their learnings, and together decide what are the future functionalities and future features of the product that they are designing for. And when deciding what needs to be built into the product, there are mainly two broad lenses through which the team can take a look at it. One is the external lens and the other one is the internal lens. Now, when I say external, this comprises of all the users that are using the product. How are they using it? Do they have any pain points? Are there any places where users are just dropping off and abandoning the product? They are not able to use it. External can also be what is the market look like? What is the comp analysis? Have we discovered any major feature gap when we are doing a competition analysis? Market trends also, like for example, where is the market heading and where are our competitors heading to? So all these factors that are external to the product and to the company need to be considered when the core product team is starting to create user stories. The second lens through which the product team needs to look at is the internal. Now, when I say internal, that means everything that happens within the company or within the team. Now, places that are internal could be product roadmaps. Was there a product roadmap created before, and are there any backlog items that we want to work on this sprint? It could also be the company and the business goals and the business OKRs for this year. So some of the product features can also stem from that. For one example could be if the company OKR is to increase the product MAU, that is a monthly active users, for this particular product by 25%, then are there any capabilities or are there any feature sets that can be added to that product that will simplify the experience or that will help increase the MAU? So some of these internal factors can also be considered when deciding what capabilities to add into the product. Another useful place to look at is to see if there are any tech debts or if there are any UX debts that we want to clear out, because these things accumulate over time. Usually a user story is short enough to be accomplished or to be executed in a sprint. So do we have enough people? Do we have enough engineering bandwidth? Do we have enough design and content bandwidth to satisfy this particular capabilities or features? So it would be super helpful if a product team can take a look at the external factors and also the internal factors and then start brainstorming on the product capabilities that the product wants to have and then convert them into user-focused user stories. So now once the product team has a clear idea on what are the overarching product capabilities that they want to add into the product, it's time to start writing good user stories. So thankfully there is a template for you to do this, and the template is something that goes like this. So we start with the user, and or remember, user stories are always focused on the user. So we start with the user. We say, as a, insert your user or the persona. I want to insert the task or the capability that they want to have within the product, so that now this is the advantage, or this is the reason why they would want to have that particular feature. A good example of a user story, and considering the example of Amazon, as an Amazon buyer, I want to be able to reset my password so that I can gain access to my account in case I forget my password. So what we are showing, so the capability that we want to add into the product is to have a password reset capability, and we are writing a user story around the user to see what is the advantage that the user would get because of this capability. An acronym that will help you craft better user stories is INVEST. INVEST. So the I in INVEST stands for independent, the N stands for negotiable, the V stands for valuable, the E stands for estimatable, and S stands for small, and T stands for testable. I is for independent. So we want our user stories to be independent of each other and not really dependent on each other. The N stands for negotiable. Now, once a user story is written, we want it to be open for discussion, especially within the team, and we want it to be flexible enough to accommodate changes. Now, these changes can come when discussing within the team. These changes can also come in when we are cross-checking or cross-validating the user story with actual users. So keep it negotiable, keep it a little bit flexible. The V is for valuable, and this is where we want each user story to add some form of value to the users. So E is estimatable. So what that means is that each user story should, what that means is that the team should be able to estimate how much time a user story would require to design and to develop. S is for small, and what this means is that you need to have the user stories small enough so that they are able to be developed within a sprint or two. And the last one is testable, and again we'll come to the acceptance criteria to talk more about testability, or if that's even a word. So T is for testable, and that means that we should be easily able to identify if the user story has been completed or not. So write your user stories in such a way that they follow the INVEST acronym, and this will help make sure that whatever goes into design and development is efficient, is doable, is measurable, and provides value to the users. Next component to writing good user stories is the acceptance criteria. Now, acceptance criteria basically defines the testable T that we saw in the INVEST acronym, the last one T, where we said that the user story needs to be testable. And the acceptance criteria basically defines in a list what all the minute features that need to go into that particular feature set. For example, considering the same password reset example from Amazon, if the user story says that as a logged in Amazon buyer, I want to be able to reset my password so that I can regain the access to my account, the acceptance criteria would be the user is able to enter their email address and receive a password reset link on that email. The user is not able to use the same password reset link after 24 hours. The user is able to create a password on clicking that password link. The user is able to receive a notification if on successful reset of the password. So every small thing that needs to happen when the user interacts with this particular feature goes into the acceptance criteria. Now, it really helps the engineering and design teams to have a very in-depth acceptance criteria. So there you have it. There are the three components or the three phases of writing effective user stories. The first one is to always use the template. As a user, I want to functionality, so that the reason why they want it. And when writing your user stories, make sure that you follow the INVEST acronym. And then once you have that INVEST acronym in place and once you have the user story in place, end it up with an acceptance criteria. The more detailed and more granular you can get it while you are creating the acceptance criteria, the easier it will be for your team to execute it. So the next section of this video would be to understand what are we going to do with these user stories. As a product team, we want to develop hundreds of features into the product. We want to add as much of value that we can to the users, but we all know that it is not doable at once. We can do everything, but we can't do everything at once. So once we have our user stories, maybe we have about 20-25 of them, and the next step, the next logical step is to prioritize these as a team. Now there are different frameworks that I have seen PMs use for prioritization. Some of them use the Moscow method, some of them use the Kano model, but the most common one that I have seen is the value versus effort matrix, where we kind of map out the user stories based on how much value they would add to our users versus how much effort it would take to make them. And this is again done as a team, because the design team knows how much design bandwidth they have for this particular quarter. The engineering team would know how much engineering bandwidth they have for this quarter. So sit together as a team, use any of these models. You could use the Moscow, the Kano method, or even the value versus effort matrix, and prioritize the user stories that you want to roll out in the next release. So logically, this is kind of the end of what a PM would do to create user stories. The next step would be for the UX designers to pick up those user stories that have been finalized and start creating explorations and start creating designs for them and follow the double diamond process. After that, it would be the turn of the engineering team to pick up those high fidelity designs and the user stories and then start implementing them. So throughout your career as a UX designer, you would be working with a lot of product managers. You would be working with multiple product managers across multiple products, across multiple companies as well. And with variety comes difference. So you're going to be seeing product managers who write just one-liner requirement. We are not even calling them user stories, who just write one-liner requirement and hand it over to the design team. They are like, this is what we want, deal with it. And then there will be product managers on the other hand who would do an amazing job of creating effective user stories. They would be very user-centric. They would have an amazing acceptance criteria. And you're going to be working with lots of people of both of these types and people in the between as well. So it's helpful as UX designers if we can know what good user stories look like, if we can know what is expected from a product manager and what is expected when someone gives us a requirement document, right? And we might even help out our team work better and deliver quality value. So as promised, I have created a template for creating effective user stories. It's from my experience working with amazing enterprises, and it's there in the description box below. I hope this video has been helpful. If yes, please do give it a like and subscribe. And until next video, bye.